Have you ever noticed how something small can completely ruin your mood? A message ignored, a tone that feels slightly off, and suddenly you're not okay, not just annoyed, but overthinking, tense, almost rejected. And here's the weird part, this doesn't happen randomly. I remember one time I sent a message, nothing serious, just a normal check-in, and then nothing. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Then I checked again, still nothing. By the time 30 minutes went by, I had already rewritten the entire story in my head. Did I say something wrong? Was I too much? Are they pulling away? Ever done that? Built a whole story with almost no evidence? And the strange part is, I knew it didn't make sense, but my body didn't care. It reacted like something important just happened. Like something inside me already decided, this matters, this is not safe. So the real question is, why does your body react before your logic does? And if you pay attention, this feeling isn't new, it's familiar. Not the situation, the feeling. That quiet sense of being ignored, of not being chosen, of something slipping out of your control. It's almost like you've felt this exact emotion many times before. It's like your body already knows the story before your mind catches up. And maybe you've noticed this in other moments too. Someone's tone changes slightly and your whole mood shifts. I had a friend once, they just replied, "Okay," same word, same spelling. But something about it felt colder. And just like that, my mind started scanning. Are they annoyed? Did I mess something up? Why does this feel different? How can one word change your entire emotional state? Nothing actually happened, but internally, everything changed. Because it's never just the moment, it's what the moment touches. Somewhere along the way, you learn how to read between the lines. You learn how to notice small changes, small signals, small emotional shifts. And here's the part most people miss. This isn't a personality flaw. Not because you wanted to, but because you had to. Maybe growing up, things weren't always clear. Maybe one day, someone was warm and close, and the next day, distant, quiet, unreachable. I've talked to people who say things like, "I always knew when something was off at home, even if no one said anything." They could feel it in the air, in the silence, in the way a door closed just a little harder than usual, so they adapted. But adaptation has a cost, so they learned to watch, to listen, to anticipate, not just what people said, but how they said it. Their tone, their timing, their energy, and they got good at it. Really good, and that skill probably helped you back then. It helped you avoid conflict. It helped you stay connected. It helped you feel a sense of control. But what if the thing that protected you is now exhausting you, but now it follows you everywhere? Now even in situations that are actually safe, your mind keeps scanning, looking for signs, looking for shifts, looking for meaning. And when it finds something, even small, it reacts, not because it's accurate, but because it's familiar, not loudly always. Sometimes it's subtle, a quiet overthinking spiral, a drop in your mood, a sudden urge to fix something, even when nothing is clearly broken. And the confusing part is, part of you knows you might be overreacting, but another part of you feels like this reaction is completely justified. So which part do you trust? Trying to calm yourself down while also feeling like something is genuinely wrong. I've been there. Scrolling back through messages, rereading the same sentence 5 times, looking for a hidden meaning that probably isn't there, and somehow, still not convinced. And that tension is exhausting. Because it's not just about other people. It slowly changes how you see yourself. You start thinking, why am I like this? Why do I care so much? Why can't I just be chill? At some point, it stops being about them and becomes about you. You see other people who seem relaxed, unbothered, not constantly analyzing every interaction. And you wonder what they have that you don't. But what if it's not that you're too much? What if you were just trained to notice everything? What if you just learned too early that you had to pay attention to everything? Because missing something had consequences. Maybe not obvious ones, but enough that your system decided, let's not miss anything again. And now it never turns off. So now it doesn't, even when it doesn't need to. And that's why small things feel big. Because they don't stay small. They connect, they echo. They carry a little bit of everything that came before. So you're not reacting to one moment, you're reacting to a pattern. And it doesn't just show up in texting. It shows up in who you're drawn to. You might notice, you feel more pulled toward people who are a little hard to read, a little inconsistent, a little distant, not completely unavailable, just enough to keep you guessing. Someone finally meets a person who is steady, clear, consistent, and instead of feeling safe, they feel unsure, almost bored, almost like something is missing, because calm doesn't feel normal. Not because they want chaos, but because calm feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels uncertain. So without realizing it, you find yourself in the same emotional patterns. That quiet loop of, do they like me? Did I mess this up? Should I say something? Or should I wait? It's the same question, just different faces. And you keep trying to get it right, say the right thing, act the right way. Be the version of yourself that doesn't mess things up. Because the problem isn't the situation, it just gets activated by it. And maybe you've had moments, rare ones, where you caught it, where you paused and thought, wait, this feels familiar. And that moment, that's where things start to change, not the person, not the situation, the feeling. I remember one of those moments clearly. I was about to send a message to fix something that probably didn't even need fixing. And for a second I stopped. And I thought, this isn't about them, is it? That one thought changed everything, just slightly. And something shifted, just a little. You're still feeling it. And space is where control slowly comes back. Not a huge change, just enough to notice. This isn't entirely about right now. And that small awareness is different from everything else. Because usually, the reaction just takes over. But in that moment, you're not completely inside it. You're observing it. And that's a completely different position to be in. And even that tiny shift feels relieving. Not because the feeling disappears, but because it's not as confusing anymore. You're not just overreacting. You're remembering something. You're responding to something that has history. And when you start seeing it that way, you stop fighting yourself as much. You stop trying to force yourself to be different in the moment. Instead, you get curious. And curiosity is way more powerful than self-judgment. You start noticing patterns. Not judging them, just noticing. Like, interesting. This feeling shows up when someone pulls away. Interesting. I start overthinking when things feel uncertain. Interesting. I get anxious when I don't know where I stand. And slowly, those moments stop feeling random. They start feeling connected. And once something feels connected, it also starts to feel understandable. And when something is understandable, it stops feeling like chaos. You don't need to fix everything all at once. You don't need to suddenly become someone who never gets triggered. That's not the goal. You just need that small moment of recognition. That quiet pause where you realize, this feeling didn't start here. And from there, things begin to shift. Not dramatically, but subtly. You react a little slower. You question your thoughts a little more gently. You give yourself a little more room. And that little adds up more than you think. And over time, that space grows. Until one day, something that used to completely take over just passes through. And that's when you realize you've changed, not because you forced it away, but because it no longer has the same grip. And maybe the most important part in all of this is, you stop seeing yourself as the problem. You stop labeling yourself as too sensitive or too emotional or too much. What if you were never too much, just highly trained to feel? You start seeing the pattern instead. And somehow that feels lighter, because it means you're not broken. You're just carrying something that made sense at some point in your life. And now you're slowly learning you don't have to carry it in the same way anymore. Not perfectly, not all at once, just a little differently than before.